So, what is PostTrans? PostTrans is all about saving time. Many companies need to make bulk changes to their accounting data, such as sales prices or maybe even purchase prices, or maybe they want to create bulk stock items or edit those stock items already in the system, maybe managing bill of materials or complex discount matrices. PostTrans can help with all these and many other types of import. Indeed, we can also post in transactions. Many companies have people in the company creating nominal journals within Excel, or maybe quotes or orders sent to the customers, and then they're resubmitting them to the accounts department to manually type back into Sage. We hope we can stop this because PostTrans will help you automate all of these processes. In essence, PostTrans is a simple Excel add-in which can extract Sage data into Excel. Thus, changes can be easily made to that data in Excel and updated data can be pushed back into Sage using PostTrans. New data can also be imported, including transactional data. This can either be manually input or from external systems, all with Sage business rules and validation applied. PostTrans was originally written back in 1998. This gives us over 20 years worth of experience in this field of development. Thus, the new version for Sage is easier to create and edit templates, easier to install on a PC, which enables us to keep support time to a minimum. We have many great customer comments which can be seen on posttrans.co.uk. Indeed, a huge majority of customers would say that PostTrans has been an excellent return on investment. Okay, so let's get on with the product demo. First of all, I guess the first question is to answer is how easy it is to install. Well, I'm just going to go to our website, which is posttrans.co.uk. I've got a shortcut here, so let's just go in there. And at the top there, you can see we've got a series of menus. There's the menu for Sage 200. And if we go down to the download and install, there's some complete instructions on how to install it and download it and get yourself up and running. It works fully with any demonstration company within Sage, so you can actually evaluate it very easily. Indeed, there's another video there explaining on how to install it. One point worth noting is it does require a location on your server, or if you're actually using a single PC, then you can designate any directory on your hard drive to share information between copies of PostTrans, such as the licensing or upgrade and settings and example spreadsheets. The program itself gets installed into the local user, and we do not need admin rights to install it. Now, having installed it, first thing I'm going to show you is if you press the start button down and have a look in the program group, we should find here a program group for PostTrans for Sage Line 200, and these principles are the same for 50 as well. So the software is almost identical for Sage 50, but in here are two options that allow you to enable and disable within Excel. So if you want to temporarily disable it within Excel, you don't have to uninstall the program, you can easily do it, plus you can uninstall it, etc. from within this program group. So let's fire up Excel. And of course, I've already installed it in my copy of Excel for demonstration purposes. There's nothing really to do. You just install the program and it adds this new toolbar to Excel. So this is Excel 2000 onwards, I believe. We're compatible with all versions of Excel. And you can see we've got a new toolbar here with 6 different buttons on. As we proceed with the demonstration, we'll be using each one of these buttons, so I'll explain them as we use them. For now, though, I'm just going to press the Help button. Now, the Help button gives us access to sort of context-sensitive help. So here we can see we've got 2 help entries at the top there. Indeed, they take me through to a page which has 2 training videos on there. Now, the 2 training videos is because we actually kind of have 2 different types of templates when we do PostTrans. One, we have a static data template, which is your customers, your stock and prices and things like that. Now, that data tends to be more relatively static than transactional data. So transactional data has a slightly different layout, and indeed we'll see this in the second part of the demonstration. We'll start off importing static data any moment now. So it's just worth pointing out that we do have this resource available for you online, so you can get up and running relatively quickly, or you may want your reseller to give you the proper training required to use the product. So looking down, we have a whole series of examples here, all templates, and for instance, we've got a search button up here. So if I type in there nominal, you'll see now all the example templates that come with it. We can post in there VAT nominal, contras, and various things. So that's how you can access your templates. But now for demo purposes, I'll just type in demo there, and that will show me a predefined list of demonstration templates all ready to go for this demonstration. So the first one is stock prices. So let's just double click on that and we will see the template open. So what have we got on the screen here? Obviously we've got a predefined format. The first four rows are kind of used by PostTrans. Row 1 contains a whole series of tags, and PostTrans uses those to understand what the data is in each column. So when we press import or extract, the first thing it does is it goes down, it reads these. Indeed, the first cell is probably the most important because the name there denotes what this template is all about. In this case, it's Sage 200 and it's stock import or export. The other tags can be placed any order. Some are required. Obviously, if you're going to update a stock record, you would need a stock code. So there we have our stock code in column E, followed by description, and then we're pulling through the cost price, the selling price, and 5 bands on our price band system in Sage 200. And of course, if we need any more information on some of those columns, if we just hover there, we can see they've actually got a comment on them. So for instance, the cost price is read only. We can't update that from a spreadsheet, but we can actually read it back in. Indeed, some of these tags are actually used by the system to track what's going on. Without further ado, let's press the extract button up here and we'll read some of the data from our current Sage 200 system. And here it's offering me some search values, etc. I'm just going to press overwrite and pull everything through. So there we can see we've updated the sheet. It's actually resized the columns automatically too. And we can see there we've got a whole series of products at various different prices on our different selling bands. So our different price bands are all listed there. Now of course there we pulled through all of our data, but of course if we've got a data file with say 15,000 stock products, we wouldn't necessarily want all of them. So we could actually hone in on a particular value. PostTrans provides in-cell searching in each cell within Excel where appropriate, and the same format follows through onto this criteria screen in that I can type the first few letters of say a stock group and it will search and fill them in if there's one entry found that matches. So now I've entered whiteware, so now when I press extract we can only see now our whiteware products. So now I'm ready to maybe alter some of the prices on this system using PostTrans. So now let's go in, let's alter this price here, and I'm going to put in a ridiculous value. In fact, that is such a ridiculous value I'm not sure Sage would even take it. So let's change those two values and see here we've got X's. That means that this price band here is actually going to use the standard price. Again, I could enter a couple of figures in there to actually define, or I could say, okay, well, this would be not really appropriate because this is euros, but if I put an X in there, that would tell those two to go back to the standard selling price. If I go and press import, you'll see PostTrans will first give me some information there, and that information is telling me one, that it's going to post it into my demo company, which is the name of the company I've set up within Sage 200. And it's also listing there all of the defaults that's going to be used for fields or data that I have not mapped using PostTrans. So for instance, you know, we may not have, and we haven't listed the currency on the spreadsheet. So if I was going to create a new stock item, which I will do in a minute, it would default to GBP. So if I want to override that, I would need to map that to the spreadsheet so I have the power to select euros or something. Let's press OK and import that. And you can see there it's updated 4 records. And it's put updated against those records. So now you would naturally expect that if we extract the data again, we are going to see these strange values here that we entered as prices, and we've put these two items on standard price. So let's do an extract. Now earlier I mentioned about this network drive. One of the things that network folder allows PostTrans to do is actually store criteria that's been entered on this criteria screen. So if anybody opens the same spreadsheet on your network, they can use the same criteria. They see the same settings that have been saved down. So let's just press overwrite, and you can see it's pulled through those 8 records again, and there's our ridiculous selling prices, and we set these two to standard price. So there we use the power of PostTrans to quickly update for prices, but of course we could have used a combination of formula to derive a new price structure and simply pasted the values across into the appropriate column. And of course this template off the shelf is giving us access to 5 price bands there, I to column M. And of course, if you had more price bands, you can access up to 10 and edit 10 at one time. And to do that, if we go back to the extract screen, you can see here we have a tab, it says price bands. And in there, I can simply search and change those price bands to whichever price band I want to hone in on that individual price band. So now that's designating that column to price band 2, 3, 3, and 5, and the Euro one. Those are the names of my price bands. And if I added extra tags, which you'll see later, I could have edited the other 5 price bands if I had them. Let's cancel that because that's not really a very logical setting. Okay, so as I said, really we would want to add some more tags to allow us to do price bands. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the commodity code and a nominal code and the barcode to this sheet, so I can extract that data, edit it, and update Sage 200 really quickly. So to do that, I press the tags button, and you can see here we've now got a window that lists all the tags appropriate to Sage 200 stock items. And let's just move this over here because it might make a little bit more sense to be a bit closer, because as we go down, you can see they're kind of in an order. They're actually in the order that they kind of appear within the Sage 200 stock record, as you'd see it on the screen by default. And the first few are very important. Obviously, we've got that A1 tag that we mentioned there. We've got the thing called STCRC. And what that's used for, that number in there allows PostTrans to detect any changes in each row. So therefore, if I had 15,000 records here and I only made, I don't know, 100 changes, it would whiz down there before it even started talking to Sage 200. And of course, as I said, it requires a stock code and a name. So they're all required items. We're looking for commodity code. So let's, well, of course, we could scroll down here, this great big long list, but it's a lot easier if we go to this search box here and type in their commodity code. And there we found it. And you can see now it's added that to the next available cell where I left the cursor. So next we are going to have a nominal code, SG Rev, which I think is the revenue nominal code within Sage 200. And we're going to include barcode as well. So let's just clear down that and type BAR, and now we found the barcode. Okay, so let's close that window because we're finished with it now. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an extract again. Only this time I think I'm going to extract without resizing the columns, because we might actually kind of want to push as much data in the screen as possible. So let's just shutter down these prices here so we can just see what we're doing. So yeah, we've pulled through the commodity code from our system, and of course now we could go in there and just simply type some new numbers in, and you can see there we've pulled through the nominal revenue codes. So again, we can edit those, and it doesn't look like we've got any barcodes in the system, so of course I can type in some numbers or some letters in there. Now we can see there we've got a nominal there and the cost center and department. So how does that all work? Well, basically it's the nominal followed by the cost center or the department. You can actually break it down into separate columns if you wish. If you want to use formulas rather than type something in, you might want to do that. But anyway, we've got in-cell searching going on here, which means that I can type a code and PostTrans will help me find the appropriate code. And how do we know that's allowed in this cell? Well, we know that's allowed in this cell because there's this little arrow up on the tag. Indeed, if we hover over here, we get some help on how the in-cell searching works in the comment on that particular cell. So what you'd expect is if I type in there 31 and tab away, I can see all my nominal codes which begin with 31 and the cost center and department combinations. So I could just select a different value in there and then update Sage. If I can't remember what value I'm looking for, if I type in SAL, you'll see it's now pulled up everything with SAL in the description. So really easy to work with. Now I'm going to try and make a mistake here. I'm just going to type in some silly old number, prove that we have data validation on an import. And also let's type in a really long description, because I want to show you another feature of PostTrans. So I'm going to make this barcode ridiculously long, and there we go, and press the import button. Again, it's offering me those defaults, and now I've pressed OK. Oh, right, okay, so it's detected there that the GL code was invalid, and you note it's updated the two records beforehand. So it's gone down the spreadsheet, it's detected the changes of those first two records, and then it's read this record and said, oh, hang on, that GL code doesn't exist, look at it, it's ridiculous. So it's actually moved the cursor there and told me to correct that. So let's just correct that. Let's type in there 3-1, and of course if I did actually manage to enter the value from my memory, I could just type it in and it would fill it in. Now, note there's a description at the end after the code. When PostTrans adds this, you can see there's a comma. PostTrans totally ignores what's after the comma. It's just adding there the description so you can understand what that code is. Gives you better validation also, because you can easily understand what that GL code is. But the point is that if you were bringing this in from a file, or maybe even a formula you were using, or a macro or VBA, or the list goes on, because you've got the power of Excel here to manipulate this data or bring it in. The point is that you would only need the code in there. Forget the comma business. You wouldn't even need the comma. You just need the code. And the same is true. Look, we can see in the stock group, you can see there is a WGE, etc. So let's carry on with that import. Let's press import again. And now we can see it's done the final update. And, oh, hang on, we've got a warning. And what it's warning us here is that the barcode is greater than 30 characters, and of course it is. Our barcode is ridiculously long. So what it's telling me there is PostTrans has detected that Sage 200 is 30 characters long, and we've put 101 characters in. Now this is really valuable when you come to import addresses, for instance, because forever people were giving addresses, importing them, they're too long for fields and etc. Of course you can go back in, edit them, and then press the import button to correct that data. I'm not going to do that. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to extract that data again, just to prove everything got updated. And there we can see it was cut down to 30 characters. There's my barcode entered. A few of the GL codes have changed, and we're kind of done. But of course we can create new stock records using PostTrans very easily. So let's go down and we're going to copy. Let's copy these two stock items here. So all I'm going to do is select the row in Excel and copy that, and then I'm going to move down and add some new items by just inserting the copied cells. So let's say we've got two new machines here and they are 1400 speed. So we're just going to change that to 140, and let's change the other stock code to 140. And of course we'd probably want to change the description to match the new stock code. Or of course this could be CSV data we're about to bring in. And obviously I think we would probably change the supplier price, being a better machine, to let's change that to 3950 and 265. Of course we could change all our selling price bands to reflect that also, so let's make this one to 250. For some reason we're selling this at 99, so I guess 2000 that'll do. Of course we could change the GL code, etc., and of course probably the barcode would want to be different, so let's just put some barcodes in. And now if we post or import the data into Sage 200, we should see PostTrans whiz down that sheet and take in the new records. There's the default it's going to use, as I discussed earlier. So any fields I haven't specified on here, it's going to import. Now, it's worth noticing here, it's also setting up a location record against the warehouse. I can actually map various locations, so I could create two related location records when I'm creating a stock item also. But let's just go in, and of course I could even create the location bin code if I mapped it onto the spreadsheet. Okay, let's just Okay, that. Now you can see we posted 2 records. Let's extract that just to see if the data was pushed into Sage 200. And there we can see we've got our new codes. There's the one and there's the other one. So we pushed those 2 new products into the Sage 200 database, ready to purchase in. If we notice here, column C has a delete tag at the top in row 1, and that allows us to delete codes out. So I can put an X or a Y in here, and this will denote the item can be deleted. I've just marked those 2 new items for deletion. And of course, this will apply the Sage 200 business rules to deletion, so I can't delete them unless I'm allowed to in Sage. So now let's press the import, and I think we should now see it go down, and this time it's going to warn us that we're about to delete something. There we go. You've opted to delete the records, yes or no. Now, you may cringe about this deletion, so you don't actually have to have this column in the template at all, but it's there if you want to use it. Say you import a stock code and you've made a mistake, then you can easily delete it and copy it and make a change to it. So there we go down, and now we've deleted the data. Let's just extract it just to prove that it's gone. And now, having extracted it, we should see all our white goods less the 2 new items I created, and there we go, we're back to 12 records or whatever it was. Okay, that was very simple. Of course, if you're working in the clothing industry and you create loads of stock items with sizes encoded into stock codes, this is ideal, can save hours and hours of work. And as I explained, you can create related stuff such as the warehouse and the supplier and the list price all in one go. Let's move on and update supplier records on the stock record. Let's just press help, and I'm just going to type demo, and my second option down there, it says stock supplier stock code. So I'm just going to double click on it, and I'm just going to show you in Sage what I'm talking about here, because it's possibly not making a great deal of sense. Let's go to my favorite stock list. Here we go. What I'm talking about here is the actual suppliers tab here. So now they're related to each stock item, and you can see there that that item is supplied by AB Cookers. So what I can do in PostTrans is I could extract all of my supplier information, or I could say I'd like AB Cookers, so I just type in there AB, and that lookup works. I can work on alternative stock codes or stock groups, etc., or use analysis codes, etc. Anyway, let's press overwrite, and that's going to extract everything out of the Sage database. So there we can see we've got AB built-in /502, and its preferred supplier is ABC Cookers. Now they supply it, their list price is $149.99. So let's just pull up that item 150. That's this one here, I believe. So now we have the supplier, and there we see the values in there. And of course, if we edit in here, we should see the list price. There it is, 149. So that's the figure we're honing in on here. So let's just go back to my template, and of course I can put in here many related stock supplies. So I have up to 5, I believe. So again, we put in the tags to allow us to access this data. So you can see here we've got whether they're a preferred supplier, their stock, their supplier code, and the list price is mapped in sets. So there's my second supply, etc. Anyway, let's fill some data in. It'll probably become more apparent as I fill it in. So if I type in there SMI, you see it fills in that supply because that matches, and I could say, okay, they sell them for £165. Now we have another supplier which is maybe they sell them at actually £139. And of course, as you'd expect, we can go down here and we can edit values simply using Excel. So let's press import, and that will push back any changes back to the Sage 200 database. So there we go. So it's done 3 updates, skipped all the records that hadn't been changed. So now if I press extract, and again it's remembered that criteria, when I pull it out, we can see there we've got those 3 or 4 edits that we made. It's 15, I think, 45, and there are my suppliers. And of course, if I want to change one to a preferred supplier, I can just put a yes in there and delete that from there. And now what it will do is it will import that change. So now I can redesignate my preferred suppliers, and I believe there it's just telling me, do I really want to proceed to change the preferred supplier? And the answer was yes, I do. So let's just double click on that stock item to reopen it. Now if we go to the suppliers tab, there we can see we've changed the preferred supplier. And as you'd expect, if we drill down, I think we set it to £139, the list price. There we go. Okay, so we've now seen how easy it is for PostTrans to manipulate that data and update the supplier prices. So now we're going to edit some discounts within Sage 200. Let's go back to the help button, and I'm going to type in their demo again. And now we're going to go to discounts, which is a pro feature. So what have we got here? Well, obviously we've got another template, and of course we can see that Cell A1 now contains a different tag, Sage 200 discount stock, so that tells PostTrans that that's the type of import it's going to use. So let's visualize this data by extracting it from Sage 200, and you can see there it's written 15 records to the spreadsheet. So what are we seeing here? Well, okay, so we are seeing here the discounts applied to a stock item, and of course basically a customer is put on a discount group, and discount groups can contain discounts relating to stock groups or individual stock items, and this spreadsheet is specifically for stock items. There's another one for groups and another one that allows you to create the stock discount groups, etc. Whole section on our website that explains the functionality, and more videos honing in on particular individual parts of the system. Now I'm just going to quickly do some updates just to show you what it does. So what do we got here? Okay, we've got stock name, but the name is not the stock code name, it's the actual name of the discount itself. So it's the name you would have typed in Sage 200. But PostTrans is going to do something rather snazzy with that in a second. And over here we can specify, I think it's up to 20 price breaks. So we can see here this item here, if we sell 3, it's £130. These are special prices denoted in this column here. 5, it's £125. So maybe I just want to change those values now. So I could make that 888 and that's 777 that easily. And of course I could just manipulate those page breaks and all that sort of business too. Let's alter some more values. Let's put that to 189 and I guess 188. And of course, as you'd expect, if I press import, it just updates those records that have changed. So there we've updated the 2 records, and it's also done a few other little things in that it's actually updated the name on the discount. And what it's done is it's actually added the values to the name, so you can now see a summary of what that discount is all about. So if I made one a flat rate, let's delete these and change that to £45, import that. Again, we'll see that name being updated, and now it says flat SP 45. Now, of course, we can turn that off. If I go into system settings, we do have control over what's happening there. So in here, we can actually change some settings, so we can turn off this auto name creation, but we can also make it ignore, say, each and GBP. So if this price break is for a different unit or a different currency specifically, it will add that to the name. So you can now maintain your names, not only the matrix but the names applied to the discounts in a sensible, readable fashion. So that's quite easy to get your head around, really. Another point worth making here is this item here. Why does it say hash greater than 1 group? That actually means that this stock discount line has been assigned to more than 1 group. Otherwise, it will actually show you which group it's on. And of course, as you'd expect, we've got in-cell searching. So if you want to reassign that to a different group, etc., you can do quite easily. Like I say, there's a section on our website with loads of videos covering each stage of price updating, but I just wanted to show that because I'm sure it's a very complex issue within Sage 200 to maintain that data, and PostTrans helps with that. So there we go. So of course in this demonstration so far we've seen stock items being updated and discount The same principle is true for other discount matrices, supplier prices, delivery addresses, contacts and roles, search values, warehouses and bins we can set up, bill of materials and alternate codes, and all sorts of weird and wonderful things. Let's move on to something what I think is personally a little bit more exciting, and that is actually bringing in transactions. So what I'm going to do now is move on to nominal journals. Let's press the help button again and type in demo. And what are we going to do? We're going to pull up the nominal contra example. So I'll just double click on that. And now you can see we've got a completely different format of our spreadsheet. And of course, the first thing that stands out is there's a section at the top. And the section at the top allows us to map our header fields on the transaction. And normally, for a nominal journal, that's not too complex. But when we come into sales, purchase orders, and invoices and things, it can get a little bit more complex. But this example is all about nominal. So you can see there we have nominal as its type, and of course that could be a reversing journal. Look, if I press space and tab away, we can see all the different values. So we'll leave it as nom. There's the date, and as I said, this is a contra journal. So on a contra journal, we specify one nominal code, and of course that could be the cost center department combination like we saw in the previous examples, to post the other side of the journal. So here we have a series of debits, and it will credit the bank account. So let's see this being posted. Let's just press import, and you can see there it whizzed down, numbered all those rows, and now we've got all the summary of that transaction as it's been read from the spreadsheet. Now if I post it into Sage 200, you can see there in this column here we've now got the reference of the journal, which has just been posted into Sage 200. Simple. Now if I press import again, oh look, the system says nothing to import. So I can't re-import it unless I clear down this, which is quite a safety feature. It means that that journal is very difficult to post it twice accidentally. And of course, as you'd expect, we've got a blog article here. If I click on this link here, it pulls up a whole article explaining this functionality. And I do believe possibly there is another video on how this all works. There we go. Loads and loads of demonstration videos on the website. Kind of scooted over the format of this sheet. As I said, the top section here is for header values, and before what we had was a series of rows, tags in row 1. Now with transactions, what we use is row 28 to put all our tags in, and of course we can add them very easily from the tags button, which we will probably do later in this demonstration. So how does PostTrans know about the header values? Well, it's very simple. If I hover over one of those, you can see there's a comment assigned to that individual cell. A nice comment explaining how it can be used. In actual fact, that's got in-cell searching because we want to look up nominal codes. So it's got that little arrow up after the tag, and the tag is in the first line of the comment. So you can very carefully change some of the options, but if you took the little hat off, then it would stop the in-cell searching if you would wish to turn it off for some reason. So we can see there all of those comments have a tag in the first line. So PostTrans immediately reads them when you press import to find out what's been mapped. And then it reads row 28, which tells it what's in each column. And of course we talked about in-cell searching earlier, and as you'd expect, if I go down here I can enter a nominal code, and you can see there it's filled in the details. I can add a value against it, and you can see I can build up the nominal journal very quickly. But of course the nominal journal could have been actually derived from a file we're going to import. Again, towards the end of this demonstration we will be importing from a file, or it could be formulas, it could be a journal we post every month but need to do some calculations on. We could summarize a whole load of calculations from other sheets in this sheet and then use PostTrans to post the result. And of course, for those of you who are really paying attention, you'll notice that the cursor is actually defined in a certain order. So as I tab through the sheet, you'll see the cursor whizzes through to the appropriate cells. And when we get to the sales order, we will actually see that being customized very easily. And of course, as you'd expect, we've got other examples. Indeed, we've even got one that posts VAT journal. So here you can see we've nominated the VAT amount here. So if I go through and I change the VAT amount to say 0, it recalculates the VAT automatically. And again, like I say, that could be done with formulas or a file coming in from an external source. And then when you post that, it gets popped into the system as we'd expect. And again, the journal reference is placed in column A. Now let's move on to a sales order. Let's press the help button, and I'm going to type demo in there to get my list of demo templates up, and I'm just going to double click on sales order. Now you can see this already has data in it, and we can see there it's a sales order because it has transaction type SO, it's got a date, account reference, etc. A location to pull all my stock from, so everything I'm placing an order from is from my warehouse. Delivery address and some credit details on the top right hand corner. Now if you're thinking, oh my god, I wouldn't want all my users to alter this and how would I protect it, you can easily move some of this over to the right hand side and hide the columns, or you could even protect the sheet. So what's going on here? Well, as we explained earlier, this is the header section of the transaction. So yeah, the account code, etc. And how does PostTrans know? It knows because the tag is in the first line of the comment within each cell. And you'll see me add a comment. Sorry, you'll see me add a field or map a field to the header in a few moments in this example. Very easy to do from this tags button at the top here. And of course, in the other previous examples, we had a series of tags in row 1. For transactions on Sage 200, it's row 28. So all the tags are there designating what each column does. So this is stock, stock description, quantity, the unit price, etc. Now, a lot of this is optional. You could get away with just a stock code, a description, and a quantity. Other stuff here is required. It's just here in this example. You can rearrange it and change it around and hide things and do all sorts of weird and wonderful things. And you can add formulas. Indeed, I'm going to press this clear button in a minute. And what that does is it looks at row 27. If there's an X in row 27, it just clears that column. If there's a value or a formula, then it copies it down the column. So we can set up our own formulas, and every time we press the clear button, it resets it. Now I mentioned there's tags in here. Now, as you'd expect when I press the clear button, a majority of the header information I would want clearing, but maybe I wouldn't want the location clearing. So we can very carefully edit that first line and add an exclamation mark after the tag. And that tells PostTrans not to clear this cell. So let's press the clear button, and it's asking me whether I want to clear it. And there we go. It's reset all the data. This section here, we don't normally want to see it. So what I've done here is highlighted it and done a data group, which gives me this little arrow so I can still access it. But again, you could hide those rows from the end user. We've totally reset the transaction now. So let's see how easy it is to enter data. It's moved me to the account field because that's the first field. And I'm just going to type in AB. So now that must have been the only match of the stock record AB. Of course, if I entered space, I could do any text search on an account field. So it's now offered me 3 delivery addresses which have been set up in Sage. So I can select them, and you can see now column F now has a delivery address in it. So I'm going to put in my test transaction. Let's put in a number. And we said the warehouse is okay. Also, it's probably worth pointing out there that it followed a predefined order. And again, we'll be customizing that in a second. And if I go into delivery address, look, you see it flows down and then it goes back to stock record because it's the first line. Indeed, if I move to this postcode field and press space and type in a postcode, it will do a postcode search. So I can fill in an address. Or if I want to, I can put it back to a delivery address by just double clicking on that area and selecting a delivery address. And there we go, back to a delivery address. So let's go into the stock code. And as you'd expect, in cell searching, so if I type COO, I see all my cookers. And we've brought through the price there. The unit price is the unit price as you'd expect in Sage, all discounts and all the rest of the matrix is being applied. Here I've given myself the option of adding an additional discount percent, but again, that is optional. If I want to do a text search, if I put space and then blend, you'll see there it's looked up Blender and it's only found one match, so it's filled it in automatically. There's no point in showing me a list of blenders. And for instance, I can use the same thing to find 70 centimeters. Maybe we've got a couple of things in here, 70 centimeters. Yeah, and we've only got, and you can see there we've got free stock. Again, that's a pro version. The fact it's displaying the free stock or the on order quantity in the search. So let's select that. And again, filled in the price, etc., as we'd expect. Now what I want to do is put a please deliver to back door message at the bottom of my invoice or order. Now, slight spelling mistake there, but it doesn't really matter. Okay, so let's now press import and you'll see PostTrans will go down and read that information. There we go. So it numbered the lines as it went, and we can see there our margin, etc. Now we can turn the margin off in system settings. It's also told me which Sage company it's going to write the information to, and that's really easy to change. So we're ready to post that transaction. Let's post that transaction. Again, due to a system setting, we can suppress this, and this again is a pro version feature. We can print that to the printer, or we can email our document. And these email addresses have come from Sage, so I could just tick one of those to send an email to that user. And again, there's loads of system settings which enable you to turn various options on and off on this section of the software. Now I'm just going to press preview so we can see what the transaction looked like. And of course, as you'd expect, it uses the standard layouts from Sage 200 or any bespoke ones. Let's just close that. And so we posted 4 lines. Now, of course, if I want to reprint that, if I double click on that reference it in cell A1, I can access that screen again, which is great. Indeed, if I want to discuss this debt with the customer, I could just double click in there, and now I can see the ledger for the customer. So that's showing me all the outstanding transactions in Sage 200. And of course I can see everything if I turn off outstanding. Indeed, I can see any orders sitting in the system waiting to be delivered within Excel itself. So now we've posted that, and if we press the import button, PostTrans will ignore it because we've got these references down here. It's only until we delete them that we can post again, so we can't post the transaction twice. So let's customize this a little bit, because we put that message there, but wouldn't it be nicer if it was actually in the header of the transaction? So let's do that. So to add tags to our import, we simply press the tags button. It's showing me here a tip here, just telling me a little bit about how all this works. So I'm just going to OK that. Now, some tags are only available for orders or invoices, etc., or the sales side. So this is what the IO means here on this screen. And some are required. So obviously we need TL posted, which is column A here. Let's just expand that down. Obviously we need a stock code, but stock codes are only relevant to orders. And a description, we definitely need the description, which is further down this list here somewhere. There we go, required and used for invoices and orders. And the quantity is only used on orders. Okay. So we want to add a header value. So these are all TL fields here because they're transaction lines. We use those all in the transaction lines, but we want to add some header values. So if I click on the header tab, you can see there I've got a list of all my header fields I can map to my Excel sheet. Indeed, we even have some here from the account and the stock record. So I can add ST codes in here which allow me to get the stock quantity figure down here, or I can get the min-max, etc., or the lead time, and all sorts of wonderful things like that. Let's go back to the header, and of course I'm going to add a message automatically, but from the header this time. So I could look down the list, but again we've got a search here, so let's type in message, and there we can see we've got 3 types of message. So I'm just going to double click on that, and again we're getting some help pop up, but I'm just going to OK that. Now what that's done is, look, it's labelled it and added a field, and it's added the tag there to the first line of the comment. So we know that's TH message bot. Big description on what it's all about too. Excellent. In fact, look, we actually had that help at the bottom here, adds a message, when we highlighted it, and we have a link here. So if I double click on that link, as you'd expect, it goes to an article on our website explaining all about the use of that tag and how it can be used very, very easily. So that's added that, and we want to add another field. The second field will be, I want to be able to email, every time I print, I want to email the customer if I wish to. So yeah, we saw the emails being pulled through from Sage, but maybe I want to specify them on the sheet as well. So this tag allows me to do that, and look, there's more help on that, on all about printing and how you can use it for emailing, etc. Now that's going to send that email via MAPI interface, so it'll send it through Outlook in the background. So let's close that down. Now, as we said earlier, we had a tab order, and of course the tab order will not stop at those new fields. So how easy is that to alter? Well, let's move to the first cell we want it to move through. I'm going to press setup, and in setup for sales orders or invoices, etc., we've got this extra tab here that says cursor path, and there we can see it says C4, C5, C6, B30. So it means it would go dung through the C's and then down to the stock item for the first line to be entered. Or if I moved to the delivery address, it will follow through this sequence until it goes to the last one, B30 again. So that's how I've got my flow that goes down or down and across to the stock code. In the lower portion here, look, you can see that we can define column B, D, which is the quantity, and then F as the flow. And once we tab away from column F, it'll automatically start back at B on the next row down. So it's very simple. Okay, so we've got the cursor on the first cell we want to use, so that's the account code. I'm just going to press record, just give me a little bit of help there, and all I need to do is tab down. Now I'm going to miss out warehouse because I don't want that in my cursor flow. And now I go down, and there's my B30, so that's one flow down. And now let's do the same, but on the delivery address. There we go. Now we can stop that and OK that. And incidentally, again, another help button here, taking you to a page on our website to explain this. Right, so now let's tab through here, and as you can see, look, it's just flowed through from account, customer ref, missed out location, down through those two and back to B3 and on from column B, D and F, moving through the sheet. Now if I go back, I can have total control, but as soon as I enter into that sequence, off the cursor goes following that path. So that's a great aid to actually data entry. So now let's complete this. Let's take this item out of here and let's put deliver to back door. I'm going to put a number in there just to make it different to what it was, and I'm going to put in it an email address in factitious1dd@dd.com, and now what we're going to do is post it. So there we saw it scan down the lines. There's our summary, what company it's going into, what margin we're making, all the rest of it. And incidentally, if we scroll down here, we can actually see a list of all the pro features we've just used, such as that customer ledger drill down, printing the transaction, etc., etc. So we know there what we would need to buy, or the functions we would need to buy for the pro version. Okay, let's post that, and now the sales order's going in, but this time, look, it's pulled that email address into this screen, so we can see that. And of course, if I preview it now, it should have put that description automatically on the bottom of the transaction, even though I actually put it in the header of the template. So we have success, and it was that easy to customize the template. And of course, like I say, a lot of these could be derived from formula, in which case you can put them over there and hide the columns.
so much flexibility using the power of Excel.
Now then, wouldn't it be great if we could make like an order pad where we listed down our stock codes and any quantity we entered against those stock codes, PostTrans placed the order for. If we rang the customer, we could simply open a template, a pre-prepared order pad that's saved on our network. And of course, we could put a shortcut on each individual user's desktop pointing to that spreadsheet, or we could indeed send that spreadsheet out to reps or customers themselves to fill in. Okay, let's progress. First of all, we need to flick a switch in the system settings. Let's go into setup, and under switches here we have a switch that says ignore zero quantities, and note that's a pro version feature. Now what does that do? Well, if I now put a 0 in these two items here, let's just clear out the transaction references. PostTrans will ignore the lines completely. What will happen now is when I press import, see, PostTrans has just read the line that had a quantity against it. Without ticking that box, it would have tried to process the others as comments. So let's just cancel that down. I could now use an ODBC connection maybe to list all my stock codes and enter them into the sheet. Because as you'd expect, PostTrans provides that functionality. Let's press extract. So for this kind of extraction, this is a pro version feature, and you can see here we have the familiar criteria screen we had before, plus we have search analysis, so we can go through and select individual items of various attributes. Let's go back to the first screen. Okay, so what switches have we got here and options? Okay, first one, group by category. So it's going to pull all the stock through and group them by their category name. Indeed, below we can specify, say, a list of categories. So we don't need to pull all my categories through, and I can specify the order they're going to appear in. And if I don't know what the category codes are, I can just press get list, and that pops them on the clipboard. I just paste them into a text pad and pop them into here when I've got them in the right order. Now, when we talked about installation, we talked about PostTrans requiring a network directory. That network directory saves whatever you enter in here against the name of this individual worksheet. So if anybody opens this worksheet on the network, then it pulls back the same settings. Down below here, we can opt to write the price in as extract. I'm going to turn that off. It depends how you want to do this. If you were sending this template maybe to a rep or a customer, you probably want the prices on there. If you wanted it generic, which was the way we'll do it in a minute, for any customer, you might want it pull through the price as you enter the quantities. And of course, at some point you might want to refresh an existing template, so this button here does that. Anyway, let's press overwrite. So now you can see PostTrans has pulled out all those stock codes and placed them in the correct order. Like I say, this could have been saved down so a user would open it while on the phone, maybe to a customer, and all they need to do is now scroll down, and you can see there it's pulling through the prices and filling it in. So we've got almost a small little telesales order pad here. Very easy. Press import, and there we go. Import the transaction in and send to the customer. Okay, let's cancel the printing there. Maybe we should go and look at that transaction within Sage itself. Okay, let's just double click on the transaction. That's the last sales order, and indeed there we can see the items we placed on the order and our message at the bottom. So there we can see we quickly placed that order.
Now let's turn this example completely on its head. Let's make it a purchase order pad. So how do we do that? Let's go to transaction type. I'm going to press space and tab away to give me the full list of transaction types. And as you can see down there, there's one called purchase order, so I'm going to select purchase order. If I go to the account type now, instead of having customers, I should see my suppliers. So I've selected Smithfield Electronics, which is one of my suppliers. So now when I press extract, it will have an extra question. Do I want to filter that by that supplier? Because it understands that for a purchase order, that's probably what I want to do. And it's worth pointing out, we have to tick the unit price, because the unit price will pull through all the list prices from Sage. So let's overwrite, and now we should have all the stock items that they supply us along with the list price. So now we can simply go down and place an order. And of course you could put the min and the max for that location record into this tagline. So you would have extracted the min-max levels for each individual stock item. Of course, I press import, and there we can see which company it's going into, but more importantly, it's a purchase order we're posting. So now we pop in post transaction, and if we preview it, we see a purchase order using the Sage 200 purchase order layout. So it was that easy to create a purchase order. Fantastic.
So now we've seen PostTrans bring in a purchase order, and we've seen the email being added to send to an individual user. Incidentally, we can put commas in there and put multiple users in, so we could actually use this to implement a purchase order authorization system. Let's go back to help and my demo sheets, and you can see here we've got one purchase order with authorization. And what does that do? Well, it uses that that cell to send an email back to the originator of the purchase order. So what you can do is create a template, send it out to personnel in your company. They can then fill in their own email address, create the purchase order, and send it to their manager. Let's just go to the blog article on this, because on here we have a nice diagram of what I'm talking about. So let's just scroll down and briefly explain. So yeah, so the originator would fill in the purchase order, their own email address, email it to the purchase order authorizer, their manager effectively. So their manager can then say yay or nay. If they say nay, then they send it back to the originator. The originator either scraps the purchase order completely or amends it and resubmits it to the authorizer. When the authorizer is happy with it, he or she can just email it to the accounts department. The accounts department can open it in Excel with PostTrans loaded. They can press the import button, and it's processed into Sage 50 or 200, because the principle's the same for both. Now, because we've got this email added to it, which then, as it's posted, it sends it back to the originator. So now the originator's got confirmation that the purchase order went through the system. And of course, if there's an email address on the supplier record set up within Sage 200, it will also be emailed to the supplier and processed in Sage 200 the normal way. It's that simple. So far we've seen data being entered manually, but of course PostTrans will do exactly what a CSV importer will do. And of course you've got the power of Excel to add formula or macros and VBA to manipulate data that may have come in from an external system. Let's just pull up an example here. We've got an example called File Import Multiple Sales Orders. Let's just open that up. And what that's done is, first of all, we can see we have a new toolbar button and it says File. Let's just press File. What does that do? Okay, so that enables me to bring in a CSV or a flat fixed file format. So let's just double click on multiple orders, and now PostTrans has read that into the sheet. So what have we got here? Okay, in the transaction header we've got they're all sales orders, and they're all going into the default location of warehouse. So maybe we've got an external system placing orders, chucks out a CSV file, and basically we can set PostTrans up once a day maybe to come in, read these and post them into Sage 200 for processing. Now I happen to know that there's some validation in Sage 200. It's not going to like these dates, so I'm just going to have to change these dates to something more sensible. I can't have them in the past like they are. Let's just copy those down. Just double click there to copy that down. So that's corrected the dates. We've actually moved some of our transaction header fields that we had up on the top in the manual entry. We've moved the trans date, the account code, and the customer reference tags to the actual lines themselves. So what does PostTrans do? It goes down and it uses these values to override whatever it's read in the header. And there's nothing in the header, so it's just going to use these values, but you can use it two different ways. And on change of any of these variables, transaction header or account or customer reference, it will force a new transaction. So we can see there the first three lines are exactly the same apart from the stock code. They're the actual physical lines on the transaction, and the next two lines change after the customer reference. So effectively we've got three transactions here. So let's import that. Let's press the import button. Okay, so there we go. We can see it scanned the first 3 in. It's giving me a warning about a stock level here on the confirmation screen, but I can post that in. And of course, we could turn off this confirmation. Let's just do that. Let's go in, let's scrub all that out. And let's go into settings, switches, and turn off confirmation. And then let's go into printing, and we'll turn off the confirmation, the printing. Of course, these are all pro features, the printing, but look here, we can actually force it to print to printer. So if we wanted everything printing, we just click on that and it would force PostTrans to print everything as it imports. Now when I press the import, look, it's just whizzed down and processed those 3 transactions. And let's just make that a little bit wider, because now we can see the transaction reference for each of those transactions. So how do we enable this file button? Well, again, in system settings, we've got an extra tab. Let's press the correct button. System settings. We've got an extra tab, which enables the import button. So effectively here I'm saying I want the data to come into column B. And of course, the data is expected at row 30 onwards, so column B30 is where the data will first be written and across the sheet. If we tick this box, that enables the file button. Now the file button can do some extra functionality here, because what we can ask it to do is to run a batch file before it does anything else. So you could pull maybe data across your network or an FTP routine to download from an external server. And if we tick run first time only, it only ever does it once when we first press the button. So that could move all the files into a particular directory, which we then specify down here and with a certain extension. Now what we can also do in conjunction with a tag thimport file name is once that data has been successfully imported, PostTrans will move the file to another directory. So we're effectively automatically archiving the file after import, and that's successful import, obviously. And as I said, we can do a fixed file format. So down here you can specify the fixed file format. Of course, as you'd expect, we have a help button here which takes you to a section on our website explaining in detail how to do this, and indeed there is a video here. So let's just close that down. So we can see that was quite easy. Now we could take that another step further, and if I click on multiple type, you'll see here we've got another example. Oh, we've got data in this one. Let's just clear that down. And let's press file. See what that brings in. Multiple types. Okay, that's read in multiple types. And here we can see we actually have the transaction type listed. So we're bringing in here sales invoices and credits and opening balances all in one go. Let's press import on this one, and there we can see the first item is a sales invoice going into our demo company, and followed by a sales opening balance, sales invoice, and finally a credit note. So you can see there we've got total flexibility, and indeed in the next example we'll see it going into multiple companies.
Okay, let's move on to the next example. The next example is posting into multiple companies, and this is done really easily. So up until now, PostTrans has used the setting in system settings, this section here, to designate the company it's going to write Sage data, PostTrans data into. So if I press the change button, you can see there on my example I've got 3 companies. Now PostTrans is generating a code based on the company name. So demo 0, 1, 2 and 3. It's designating that, which allows us to use it in a formula. So let's just select demo 2 again. And in this spreadsheet you can see here we have a new tag which is thbefsw company, which means change company before importing. So by putting those different codes in there, if PostTrans isn't already talking to that company, it will switch to that company and then post the transaction. The next column over is the transaction type. So we're posting all sales orders, but there could be purchase orders, there could be credits, there could be invoices, there could be all sorts of things. Next is the account code. It's worth noting there are blank cells here, and they're just there so you can see it's broken up. And what PostTrans does is it uses the same values as before if the cells are blank, but there is actually other lines of data in there. So if I post this, what happens? Okay, Homestyle Kitchens Demo 01. Okay, there's the summary, and it posts that sales order. Skip the printing, and now it's switched to Demo 2. Unfortunately, it's still called Homestyle Kitchens because it's another demo company. But basically what it's done there is it's skipped and posted into a completely different Sage company that quickly. So that's how you could do it. Maybe from a CSV file you could have brought it in. But what we could do is we could apply this type of method to our traditional order entry screen. So if we go onto the Company A tab, you can see here we have a sales order which looks very similar to the one we had before, only we've got two extra header fields here. This one is THBEF SW Company, switch before company, before posting, and that has got Demo 1 in it. And what's the next cell? The next cell is a tag TH after process sheet, then switch to this sheet, and there's an explanation there of what it does. So what we're telling it there is when we import, it will scan down, check the company it's about to post to, post the transaction, then look in this cell and say, okay, I'm going to go to the next sheet, but the one called Company B, because that's what it says in that cell. Having switched to that, this one says Demo 02. Let's switch to Demo 02, a different company, and post this. And then when we're finished, this is a slightly different tag because it says after switch sheet. It switches back to the previous sheet. So we're now back to where we started. So shall we see this in action? Let's press import, and now that's going into the first company, Demo 01. Big confirmation there, and let's skip that. Now it's switched to the second sheet and posted that, and now it should switch back to the first sheet it started on. Okay, so what's the point in all that? Well, of course, obviously it's gone into a different company. Now this one could have been a purchase order, which it is in this case. We might not even want to switch to the different company. We could have actually raised a back-to-back purchase order. We could have used formulas to pick up the previous contents of this. Basically, if you mapped all these cells to the other cells, you could do a mirror copy, or maybe you've got a macro you want to run to manipulate the other side of the transaction. But basically you can use PostTrans to post to two different companies at the same time to do an intercompany transfer, etc. So that about concludes our demonstration of PostTrans, and of course there's many other demos on the website honing in on particular functions and features of PostTrans. Of course you can use power of Excel in both terms of macros, formula and VBA to manipulate the data before you import it into your Sage accounting package. Indeed, data from other sheets or files can be completely reorganized into a format that PostTrans can easily post into Sage. Anyway, thanks for watching the demo. Please enjoy the product.